guys! Today we're talking all about the A-frame. For those of you that are not familiar with the Stafford Olympics, the sports that we practice, it is a sport that consists of 10 different disciplines, and the A-frame is one of them. Put quite simply, the A-frame is a triangular obstacle that the dog passes over back and forth. Oh, hi. Okay. In 3 of these disciplines, the work between dog and handler is very important, and those are long jump, a 10-mile race with the dog beside or in front of the bike, and the A-frame. And I think that for the A-frame, handling is of utmost importance, not just for the success and the results, but definitely also for safety, both for the dog and the handler. For the owner, this discipline is quite difficult because every single movement influences the dog's movement, because you are A-framing, you are working to get your dog over an obstacle, but your dog is chasing a small crinkly plastic bag at the end of the stick. That's the thing, that's the dog's goal. The dog's goal is not to pass from one side to the next in the most gracious way or in the most efficient way. The dog's purpose or goal is to grab that tiny bag. And that's something that is most important to keep in mind. It is, in this case, your job to keep you, your hands, and your dog safe. The object itself is actually quite easy to make. It consists of 2 wooden sides connected with hinges, and it is covered in a sturdy carpet. We use a doormat material, but any type of industrial grade carpet is good as long as it's quite rough and doesn't have any high soft fabric. My personal A-frame is on 20 centimeter legs, so the dog doesn't really touch the A-frame at the bottom anyways. It makes it quite lightweight. Some A-frames are just a solid wooden plate from the top to the ground. That is fine as well. It might make it a bit heavier though. An A-frame itself can be built on hinges, like I said. I like this because in that case you can practice the A-frame with puppies at a very wide angle and introduce them to it without hurting their joints, without them falling down from the frame because it is too high. And I also have the option to put it at a smaller angle so that the dog works harder than it would on competition levels. But there's a fixed setting that we use at competitions so that every dog has the exact same obstacle in front of him and that everything is equal. For competitions, we put the frame in place with a chain between the 2 sides, for example, or we have a frame that is fixed and cannot be moved, just so we know that everything is honest in the entire competition. Now, the A-frame was designed originally in England, I think for people who owned high-intensity dogs to get them tired as quickly as possible. And in this exercise, what the dog does is throw its entire body weight up around 4 feet in the air and jump back, climb back down, climb up and down, and jump up and climb down. And it's quite intense. They really work their hindquarters a lot, their glutes. So in between this, it's quite important to give the dog some rest and not let them do this for a very long time. And they can also get a massage to help the muscles relax again, because they will burn. They will have a burning sensation in their muscles if they do this. During a sports tournament or a competition, the aim is to have as many passes within 1 minute as possible. The dog has to jump up over the A-frame and go back down, and as soon as the front legs hit the ground, 1 point is added. For every age class, every height class of dog, there is a different goal. Starting at 14-inch class, we do 33 passes, and upwards we add 1 point. Venus is in the 15-inch class, so she has to get 34 points, 34 passes. Now, I spoke to Marco yesterday and he is also filming a little bit for this video. I asked him to explain why he likes the use of the A-frame. So whatever he's going to say, you will hear that today as well. He is the one who introduced me to Stafford Sports when I bought Venus. He's a dear friend and he allowed me to do a Quinlent litter at my home and raise them. And I was able to keep one of the pups as well, so that's quite awesome. I am quite new to the sport though. I think I've been practicing it for 1.5 years or so. And I think though quite new, I am quite knowledgeable, but hearing something from someone who has been practicing the sport for a long time, I think that's quite cool.
Hi guys, I was asked to explain what I like about the A-frame. And the thing that I like the most about the A-frame is that it is one of the disciplines in the DSA that you can work on together. You need to be good, your dog needs to understand what's happening, and it's a very nice part of teamwork. And the dogs love it. They can chase a bit, they can show what they can do, and it improves their agility. Staffords need to be agile, and on the A-frame they can prove that they are. Have fun on it. Bye.
Now the handling. Let's talk about the tool first. So the handling is based in quite a few of the disciplines actually on a small crinkly plastic bag, like a sandwich bag or a poop baggie, clean of course. We use that on the trek mill, which is a circular string that moves around with a plastic baggie on it, and the dog will run back and forth chasing the plastic baggie. Then we have lure racing, a couple of disciplines including the lure machine, and that's a plastic bag at the end of a string that goes straight. So it's a straight race of 50 meters, 100 meters and a 50-meter drag pull sprint with weights behind the dog. Then we have long jump as well, for which we use a horse lunge whip with the plastic baggie at the end, and for the A-frame we use a short stick with that plastic baggie. Sometimes there are dogs that really don't like chasing a plastic bag. That's not often in this sport though, because as I said, there are quite a few disciplines for which the plastic baggie is used. We will not do lure racing with a ute tug at the end of a lure or on a track mill. That's quite that's something that would be rare. And because they are terriers, they will chase anything small. So that's what we use, and it works quite well. Now, it's quite simple to make handling stick for the A-frame. My personal preference is the use of an old wooden toothbrush. I use my toothbrushes for a month or two and then they get replaced. What I do is I grab some tweezers and remove the bristles from the toothbrush so that we have a small wooden stick left. Now, often these toothbrushes are made of bamboo, and so far what I've seen is that the wood has been very soft and not brittle, so when the dog bites down on it, it doesn't break immediately, but the teeth just leave an indent. That's why I like this so much. Then I use some tape that is a little bit elastic. We call it electricity tape. I have no clue what it's called in England, but you will see it in this image, and I think you will understand what I mean. And then I roll up a plastic baggie, I attach it to the end of the toothbrush halfway, fold it over, wrap some tape around that again, and then you have a nice lure, a nice handling stick. Now we hold this stick in between our index and middle finger, and not between the index finger and thumb, because this way you can flick your hands downwards and swoop the handling stick out of the way, out of the dog's sight. And that's much easier than flicking your whole wrist sideways with the handling stick in between your thumb and index finger. I used to handle with the stick in between in my whole hand. It doesn't work. Your thumb and index finger are closer to the dog's mouth than when you handle with the stick in between your index and middle finger. It makes it safe. So I would definitely recommend doing that. I started doing it a couple months ago and it works wonders. It works a lot better. Now, I've seen quite a few people handle on the A-frame and everybody does it in a different way, but I have seen ways in which it goes wrong. Something that you have to keep in mind is this: the dog is not performing a trick. The dog is not aframing, the dog is chasing that little baggie on the end of that stick. So if you lure the dog with that stick and you keep the stick on top of the frame rather than above it, they will jump into the frame or go over the frame too low and scrape their belly and stuff like that. So yes, follow the shape of the frame, and yes, stay close, but keep your hand parallel to the frame and have the stick sticking out, which means that you're always 20-30 centimeters above the frame, going up and then going down, and then when you're down and you see the dog falling, you flip back. And once the dog falls, you can go up and you go back and you get to the other side and you flick and you put the lure back in front of the dog. But always keep the lure above the frame, not on top of it. Now when you go up and the dog follows and you are afraid of getting bitten, what I see a lot of people do is move their hand sideways. So they, instead of following the frame, they go straight, horizontal. But when the dog is on top of such a frame, the fastest way to your hand is by jumping forward rather than going down. So they can push with a lot of power. If they want to, they can push forward. You are at risk at getting bitten at that point. And some dogs don't really bite, or they only bite the exact thing they're chasing. But quite a few dogs I've seen will grab anything they can get a hold of at that point. Basically, simply because that's what they do. So you have to keep that in mind at all times, that the way you handle influences the way the dog moves over the frame. So you have to keep the stick close enough but far enough from the frame, but also follow that frame, because if you go too far away, you are at risk of getting bitten. And also the flick with your arm at the bottom, it has to be fast, and it's something that you can only learn by doing. Now I see some people who handle with a tug, a ute or a new cut tug toy, like the ones that we get from Bum Bum Dog Toys, which we use for bite work. That's fun. If your dog likes a tug and he will work for it better, then yes, it's an option to use it. But you have to keep in mind that the entire tug is something the dog wants. It's not just a plastic baggie at the end of the stick, but it's the entire tug. So, and that goes into your hand, so your hand is at risk of an injury at that point. If your dog has anything else that they like, you can see if you can use the object in a safe manner without having a big chunk of that object in your hand, such as a frisbee. A frisbee can be held at the edge with your fingers at an angle, and the frisbee is usually around 20 to 25 centimeters. That's a quite good chunk that the dog can easily bite. It's quite wide as well, so that's a good handling item. If you choose to use an object such as a tug, I would recommend using a piece of the fabric and attaching that to a stick, so that the dog is still chasing something that is further removed from your hand. On a tournament such as DSA, Dutch Stafford Athletics, you will have 5 minutes to perform the A-frame. You will have 1 minute on, 1 minute rest, and again a minute on, 1 minute rest, finishing with 1 minute of work. So this means that the dog can do the trick 3 times and gets 1 minute of rest in between, not more, not less. The dog needs some rest to recover. As I said, the thighs and the glutes will burn after an exercise such as this, because it asks a lot of the dog. It requires a lot of power and energy, so it will be tough, but the rest is not longer than 1 minute. Sometimes we do a tournament which is set in 1 day, where we do all 10 disciplines within around 12 to 14 hours. On a day like this, what we aim for is the leg score, or the score that we are supposed to get at minimum. And if we make it, we stop rather than repeating. On a tournament like the DSA in full though, where we practice for 3 days in a row, we have only 3 or 4 disciplines on 1 day, which means we can ask the dog for more. high jump we can do for 10 to 12 minutes, I believe. An A-frame we can do 3 times. We can also ask more of the dog because it will not be tired down for or because of the other disciplines. When practicing, however, we do record the time so that we know how many repetitions we made in 1 minute, but we keep going until we've done around 45 or 50 repetitions. This is because we don't want the dog to know that after 1 minute we stop, but that we want the dog to know that they can do 50 repetitions, and we will work on our handling and their condition in order to do those repetitions in a shorter amount of time. If you were to only do 1 minute every single time, the dog has a specific expectation, and it can actually mean that towards the 57 seconds the dog will slow down because, oh, it's finally over. No, we will stop when you've done 40, when you've done 42. Usually when we practice and 1 minute is over, we do at least 1 or 2 more, and sometimes we do a full 50 reps. Just because it's also practice. It will get the dog in condition, so why not take out a little bit more, and why not practice just a little bit more? Because it's quite tough on the wrists. However, if the dog lands a bit incorrectly, it's a lot of weight coming down just on those wrists and elbows. Some dogs can do it very smooth and they basically run down the frame on their way down, and it's much less hard. Some dogs really fall down. That's just the technique that the dog itself uses, and it also is of influence of the handling, of course. This means that we don't practice it more often than once a week, sometimes even once every 2 weeks, just because it's quite tough. It's quite hard on the dog's body. It's also why I don't recommend doing this with a dog that has arthritis, or a dog that has elbow issues, or a dog that has knee issues either. And if your dog is overweight, definitely work on getting that in check before starting anything like this. Also, don't do flirtable, don't do anything crazy with a dog that is overweight. It has to have a better condition before starting something like this. I will put the measurements of an A-frame in the description and tell you how I made mine, or rather how my dad made mine. It is quite simple, but you just need the right tools to make it, of course. I hope that this video explained the A-frame well. I hope that you understand how we use it and why. I hope that it inspires you to get more active with your dog. It's something we love doing. I know that all of my people who practice sports in this team love the A-frame. Some are a bit scared of it, some think it's very tiring. It's not just tiring for the dog, it's very tiring for the person as well, by the way. But it's quite an awesome discipline. It's quite cool working with your dog close one-on-one. So yeah, we love it. Venus is tired from sports yesterday. She did 3 reps of A-frame. She had 38, 39 and 37 reps. And my mate first, Anke's dog, he had 2 times 38, which was a personal record, so that's good. That's really good. We had a good day of practice, and we will be back on the field in a week or 2. Practicing some more, and this little one had puppies 5.5 months ago, so she's quite back in shape now, and we'll see how far we get with a little bit of practice on my end and a little bit of conditioning on hers. Yeah, we like it, and I hope you will too in the future. Talk soon. Bye bye. Wij zijn klaar met filmen. Wij zijn klaar met filmen.